Um, yeah, not really much to say, is there? Not really much to say after that. Um, just echoes of the Southampton game last week, which I know I didn't do a review about. Everything started opening up a little bit last week, and I wanted to go see my family. That's all it was. But I will continue to do these regular reviews now. As I say, echoes of the Southampton game. First term that comes to mind is just spineless. It's all well and good going up, but if you can't have that hunger against teams that you have to be beating, do you really belong where you are? Do we really belong up the Premier League like we are? I don't even know if it was hunger. I don't even know if it was just the lack of hunger that we had tonight. Or rather, it's 12 o'clock, wasn't it? 12 o'clock kickoff. Oh, I'm sorry. I am terribly sorry. This is probably one of the most demoralising weeks of football I will ever experience. So obviously we lost 2-1 against Newcastle. Went up 1-0 first half. And then second half they brought on Alan St. Maximin and Callum Wilson, and boom, they scored 2 goals. It was quite as simple as that. And he could have scored 3 goals if James Tarkowski wasn't on the line for that one massive opportunity they had. And you know what? We probably deserved to have conceded that 3rd goal. Because we had the ball for a lot of the game. First half, I thought we actually played really well. We looked sprightly, we looked confident, we looked explosive. Everything just seemed to be coming up Millhouse for us. And then I just can't grasp why. But the second half came about, things just looked a little bit different, and I really don't know why. Obviously, the changes at around the 60th minute, that probably helped a little bit for Newcastle, but it was just the second half in general. The tone just felt very different. We were misplacing passes quite regularly. We the first half we were quite quick on the ground. We were doing well on the ground, and it was only the odd time where we booted it up and just hit and hope really. But the second half, the amount of times we booted it up, and perhaps sometimes we won the ball and kept it well, but then we just put it out wide or put it back into the midfield, slowed it on down, passed it around the back a little bit longer. And then even the crosses, I can't think of a single cross in the second half where I thought, hot dang, that might go in. Because even the second half started with about 6 corners. I think it was 6 corners. Might have been less though. Every single one of them right at Dubravka. Like, what are we doing? Why are we crossing the ball to Martin Dubravka? I just couldn't grasp why we weren't changing up anything. It just felt so one-dimensional in the second half. The first half, we looked about 4-dimensional. You know, we knew what we were doing, and we all just seemed to click so perfectly. The second half, as I said, and I'm gonna come off this topic now because I'm just repeating myself. The second half, we just didn't. We looked like we did earlier on this season, which is not a compliment. Let me tell you, it's not a compliment in the slightest. But anyway, how do I think we could have taken something from that game? I'm not sure there's anything we could have done to take anything from that game, because the second Newcastle scored their goal, you just knew we weren't going to win the game, and that's the problem. That's the problem. We didn't inspire confidence at all. Like you generally think once the equaliser comes in, confidence is inspired. You think, all right, my players are now really pushing for it, and it was like, 5 minutes after Newcastle scored their second goal. But you knew it was coming. There was something about our attitude today that you just thought, yeah, like that second goal for Newcastle is imminent. And I don't really think we had any sniff of their goal in the second half, which is poor I don't know how to say the term, which is poor in itself. Anyway, right. I'm just gonna have to skip to the individual player things, because all I can say is it was just it was a lack of confidence, a lack of inspiration, a lack of motivation. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's motivation. Maybe we think we are staying up. We're not. We are nowhere near being relegated. False. Very false. We're actually closer to being relegated right now than we ever were this season. So you've got to wonder, what is going to motivate us? If potential relegation isn't going to motivate us, nothing really will. And I understand Fulham before today had 2 games in hand and still have, or rather we had 2 games in hand on Fulham, and we still have another game in hand on them. But, I can't see us beating Fulham in that game. If we continue with this lack of anything. It's poor. It's poor indeed. Anyway, obviously Nick Pope's standing today after a shoulder injury, which I hope's not long, because it's difficult for me to say, because I'd imagine Nick Pope will probably leave in the summer and we'll be stuck with Bailey Peacock-Farrell. I say stuck, that's unfair. He's a good goalkeeper, but he just doesn't inspire the same level of sort of presence that Nick Pope does. You don't feel safe with Bailey Peacock-Farrell. Maybe you are safe, but you don't feel safe. And that's not a good feeling to have about your goalkeeper. He did everything right today, to be fair. He did everything right, and the goals that went in, there really wasn't much he as a goalkeeper could have done. They were just 2 well-struck goals, and I think it really was just the defence around him that let him down. So all in all, I really don't think Bailey Peacock-Farrell deserves anything coming towards him at all. I think he was fine, and for most of the game, he looked pretty assured. He didn't look like he was jittery or anything. So I can't say I was displeased with it, because the goals that went in would have gone in with most goalkeepers, perhaps even Nick Pope. Defence, Matt Loughton, I thought, could he make an argument for man of the match? I'm not sure many of our players could. Perhaps you could make an argument for him being man of the match, but I don't think I will. Yeah, he didn't really do much, but that's just the level of how the rest of the team played, really. A player not doing much could have been man of the match. It's not great. He ended up really helping Gumminson out on that wing. He put in a lot of balls, and he was always there for him. Attacking wise, he was excellent. Defensively, he didn't really have much to do, because he had I can't remember the player's name for the life of me. I'm not a Newcastle fan. No one's a Newcastle fan. Come on, that might be a bit rude, actually. Some people are Newcastle fans, and I respect them. But anyway, that's beside the point. He didn't really have much to do defensively, from what I'd seen today. But when he was called upon, I think he was fine. And in an attacking sense, he was also quite fine. So that's it. That's it, really. I thought James Tarkowski, if you're talking about man of the match, he's probably the man of the match. Yes, he conceded 2 goals, but he just looked quite strong out there. I'm not going to give him man of the match, but as Matt Loughton was, very, very, very close to my man of the match. He just looked very strong out there. He made a couple mistakes, trying to prove himself for Gareth Southgate. Just a quick message to James Tarkowski. I don't think it's the fact that you play for England, that you play for Burnley, that are ruining any chances for England. I just think you need to stop trying to prove your worth with your feet and just do what you know you can do. And maybe you know you can. Who am I kidding anyway? He's not watching. But, you know, if he truly believes that he can play well with his feet, he's going to have to start proving that he can play well with his feet, because a lot of the time it's just a bit pointless. It's either pointless or he stutters and it doesn't work. Like, it's not what you want to see. So yeah, all in all though, he was perfectly fine as a centre back and did most of the things he should have done well. I just thought in terms of their second goal, Alan Saint-Maximin's goal, probably could have closed him down a little bit quicker. He was sold a dream, as was Ben Mee, who we will talk about. Both defenders were sold a dream because they thought, oh yeah, he's just going to go onto his right foot and shoot, and he both just jolted, and he was baffling to me. And he just turned back to his left and shot, and it just felt far too easy. So yeah, Ben Mee, as a player, again, I think he was the same as Tarks. I don't think he did as much as Tarks today. He prevented a few pretty certain goals. Or certain chances, I should say. Maybe not certain goals, but certain chances. But that still didn't really feel enough to have said, yes, our defence didn't look shaky today. Which, by the way, our defence looked very shaky today, as it did against Southampton. And that's going to be a problem. If we continue the rest of our season with a shaky-looking defence and a positive-looking attack that just aren't doing the opposite of the defence, you're not going to win games. It's quite as simple as that. And left back, Eric Peters. I was really expecting Charlie Taylor to be starting today. I didn't think Eric Peters would be fit, considering he went off with an injury, and I think it would have been better to have started Charlie Taylor. I don't think he had as good of a. I don't think against Southampton, Charlie Taylor had as good of a game throughout that entire match as Eric Peters did through his first 20 minutes. But looking at today, down that left-hand side, it was so drab. We just didn't seem to do anything. And perhaps that's primarily down to Dwight McNeil and just not taking his chances, but when your winger isn't taking their chances, you want your fullbacks to come in and take the game on themselves. He didn't. He was there for Dwight, but generally it just ended up Dwight passing the ball to Eric Peters and Eric Peters back to Ben Mee. That's generally what it is. I understand he's just not an attacking-minded fullback, and he probably will never be, because his career hasn't been spent being an attacking-minded fullback. You know, we've only recently really reached the modern day. And he's also old, so it's probably not as easy for him to continue with that level. Defensively, I think he was probably culpable for the first goal. I think it might have been Saint-Maximin himself. Eric Peters came out to try to tackle a player, leaving Dwight McNeil just there to defend. And it was like, why are you doing that? We defend on organisation. We defend on having players there. Why are you pulling yourself out? Like, welcome the cross. That's what we do. We welcome crosses and we win headers and we get the ball out. Like, it does baffle me quite regularly, because he does do it quite regularly. He comes out and pulls himself out of position and leaves Dwight McNeil, who by the way is a 21-year-old left midfielder who is still learning the trade of defence. Charlie Taylor has to be back in this squad soon, because Eric Peters does make the game too difficult sometimes for Dwight, and we don't want that. We don't want Dwight McNeil having too much pressure on him, because when Dwight McNeil doesn't have pressure, that's when he performs at his best. We just, speaking of Dwight McNeil, I don't think he had a good game today. There was generally always a player on him constantly, and I think Newcastle were just far too fast for him. When he was trying to run down the wing, people were just jogging along with him. You know, if you can't use your pace in one game, find another way to insert yourself into it. And I know he's 21 and he's still got a lot to learn. But that's the problem that people have been saying about Dwight McNeil for a long time now, is that he is too one-dimensional now. People know that he's going to pick up the ball and push forward. And that's what he tried far too often today. And even when it did work and he got the ball up and he crossed it in, I can only think of a couple times where the cross was actually good. And even then, it was just matched by the defence. So it's unfortunate that that's how it had ended up, but that's just how it was. From my point of view anyway. You know, please, if you do disagree with any points here, please just make it known in the comments and just say, listen up, buddy, you know nothing about football. Because maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just a bit salty today because we've lost. I don't know. Midfield-wise, Josh Brownhill, I'd love to talk about it, but I thought he was a bit invisible today. I didn't really see him do anything. And I don't want to have to stop it there, but that's about it. He was just, the game just seemed to overlook him. He just, it felt like Ashley Westwood was the only one in the midfield, which is baffling to me, because the amount of times I saw just a landscape of space for our boys to take up in the midfield, because I don't know what it is about Newcastle's midfield, but they just leave space open like all the time, and it's great. But if you have that space, use it. Use all the space you can. And generally, it just ended up with Ashley Westwood picking up the ball and kicking it up. It's particularly in the second half. I should generally, what I'm the negatives I'm going to be saying right now will be talking about the second half, because I thought we were fine first half. But yeah, it was generally just Ashley Westwood picks up the ball, boots it up. Chris Wood either wins it or doesn't win it, and the ball ends up with Dubravka anyway. Yeah, I think a lot of the problem probably did come from the centre of midfield today. Just a lack of creativity, a lack of anything in the second half, and that's all it really was, all in all. Johan Berg Gudmundsson, again, I think he disappeared, and that's probably why Matt Loughton proved his worth a bit today, because he just had to carry another player, and a lot of the time it was just Gudmundsson was being the catalyst, was being the pivot for a Matt Loughton cross or a Matt Loughton pass. All Gudmundsson ever really did was just run down the wing, hold it up a little bit longer, and then pass it. Which, it's good, it's not bad, but... And he didn't make any mistakes doing so, he did that very well, but from your wingers, you want a bit of creativity. You don't want them just jogging down the wing, holding the ball up and passing it to the right backs, having the right back cross it in. It was just the same thing constantly throughout the majority of the second half, and it was so painful to watch. So painful indeed. So that's... I just want to see a little bit more creativity in our next game. I really want to see a little bit more creativity throughout the entire match as well. A bit more creativity, a bit more determination, a bit more motivation, a bit more just something. Just something. Because right now, it's in our minds. It's our mind that is the primary problem, not our actual ability. It's our mind. And the second we overcome that, even if it just takes a well-grafted out 0-0, I don't care what it takes, right? We have to get a bit of our mojo back, because we just don't have that mojo right now. And up top, Matej Vidra obviously scored the first goal. Took it well as well. He pulled back really, really well. Because generally, you'd think a striker would continue pushing forward, just mindlessly thinking, just get the ball to me. But he didn't. He was really, really thoughtful and stopped with Chris Wood and sort of pulled back and he allowed the ball to come to him. It was quite a marvel to watch, really. It was an intelligent piece of movement, which I don't think you would have got from the majority of our strikers. Or from any of our strikers bar him. So it was very nice to see. And all in all, most of our attacking opportunities, as they have been recently, have just been coming from him. He's been excellent. He's been very, very good for us. He's looked constantly on the ball and you know, it's been nice to see. And that's why I'd be hard-pressed not to give him man of the match. Because I just thought, yes, he made a few, perhaps, silly decisions, but the majority of the time he was on it. He was on the ball. He was always reaching the ball and passing it or creating opportunities that probably never actually came into fruition, but the thought was there, and it's just takes a little bit more, and you're good, and we probably just push it if the rest of our team had that. Once again, I'm going to say it, that motivation, that determination, and his strike partner Chris Wood. I can't actually explain how delighted I was to see him assist that goal, because he picked it up near the halfway line and just kept on running forward. And granted, Newcastle probably should have done better and should have pressed him and stopped him from moving. Granted, that's fine, but with what he was given, Chris Wood did really, really well. He just kept on pushing it forward, got up to line, and just a silky, beautiful little pass into the centre. It's like he knew Vidra was going to be there, and that's what you want to see. And it was a very, very thoughtful. Again, that goal came from just being thoughtful, just being there, not being sort of out of body like the majority of the game was. We were on it. We were really on it, and it was a great goal, really well thought out goal, really good goal all in all. And I've been saying it for quite a while about Harry Kane. Okay, I'm gonna bring this to Harry Kane. I've always just been saying the dude just wants to score constantly, and that is his downfall a lot of the time. That's all he can really do. This season, or perhaps probably earlier this season, he just had that creative flair that was like, wow, this dude really can do it. And that's what I saw from Chris Wood today. I saw a level of professionalism, a level of, I'm not the only one who can score here. And if I know I can't score, I'm not just going to shoot or pass it backwards. I'm going to be an attacker. And that's really quite as simple as it goes. Chris Wood was just an excellent attacker today. And if I could give 2 man of the matches, I would have given it to Chris Wood as well. But it could very easily go to either of them too. I thought they were both very good. And his general hold-up play today, the general Chris Wood. What does Chris Wood do? He was excellent at it. And he found himself on the wing quite often today, which I don't want to see. He's not great at putting a ball in, let's just put it that way. Over the top, I should say. He put the ball in very well for Vidra. It's so weird ending this analysis on a positive, because that match was far from positive indeed. And as well, I must mention John Mbongo. He came on and didn't do much. But what can you do with 2 minutes? Come on. And that's something I do want to mention, in fact. If you compare what we had to bring on and change the game to what Newcastle had to bring on and change the game, uncomparable. Incomparable? Or incomparable. They have a striker who I believe has the most goals for them this season, and they have an extremely impressive and fast Saint Maximin as well. We had Dale Stevens and Jack Cork. If Alan Pace can't get somebody in, just even for the bench, just even to come on in the last 15 minutes and create a bit of something, we are going down next year if we don't go down this year. I don't think we will go down this year, just based on the majority of Fulham's last games and Newcastle's last games and our last games. I currently can't see us going down. But next year, if we don't do something to this squad, to this team, because we're probably going to get rid of James Tarkowski, we have to bring in somebody else. There's no question, we have to bring in somebody else. We're going to have to start thinking about the future as well. Bring in a couple 23, 24, 25-year-olds. We've got a lot to do in 1 year. Because if we don't do it this year, we're never coming back from the Championship, or rather, we're not going to come back from the Championship for a long time. And that's what Alan Pace has bought. Alan Pace bought a Premier League side, and if he can't continue it to be a Premier League side, we're stuck in the mud. Because the whole point of us is that we're a Premier League side now. That's what we're being sold on. And if we can't be a Premier League side, there's big worry financially, I think, in my opinion. And there's quite a lot of worry that perhaps Alan Pace will just be like, listen, I'm a head out. Same with Sean Dyche, I'm a head out. Nick Pope, I'm a head out. Tarks, all those players, I'm a head out. Why would players who are pushing for England, pushing for their national teams, want to play in the Championship? There's nothing attractive about it. And it is very worrying. It's very worrying indeed. We've got a lot of stuff to be doing, and I'm not sure how much longer Sean Dyche can and or will want to perform these miracles, because that's what it is. And we'll say it forever as Burnley fans. What Sean Dyche has done and what Sean Dyche continues to do is a miracle. So yeah, that's it. That's my rant over. So yeah, I'll speak next week in the next video. Fingers crossed, we can pull a bit of something from that game. I think it's Fulham. I could be wrong. I'll have to check, but I think it's Fulham. So yeah, on to the next one. Up the Clarets. Thank you for watching.